Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making a zingy, amazing lemon meringue pie. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 375 so it's nice and hot, and now let's talk about the crust. You have a choice. You could use a store-bought pie shell or a homemade pie shell. In either case, they have to be frozen. For a store-bought pie shell, they're all a little bit different. You're gonna follow the instructions on the container. Usually it's something like let it thaw for 10 minutes, prick the bottom, and then bake it off 400 for 12 to 15 minutes. These burn fast. They are not made with butter usually. I rolled out a disc of my homemade pie dough last night, folded the edge over and crimped it, and then this went into the freezer. Now that it's frozen solid, whoa, we can bake this, but you need to give it some protection and support. A little bit of parchment paper for the bottom. On top of that, we're gonna use some pie weights. If you don't have those, dried beans work great. And this goes into a bed of tin foil, aluminum foil. So just place that right in there, and you're gonna press against the side. I like to double or triple up the foil so that really provides support, because sometimes pie shells can just slide down, especially if you're using ceramic pie dishes. Press, 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 press. This goes into the oven at 375 for 20 minutes. Then remove the foil, the paper, and the pie weights. Prick the bottom, then continue baking 15 to 20 minutes or until the metal appears dry. It means it's totally baked through and it'll be crisp and delicious. An egg wash at this point is optional. In you go. My pie shell is out of the oven, golden and beautiful, and it needs to cool for just a bit. So in the meantime, let's make our filling. I want about 2 tablespoons of lemon zest. This, by the way, is a microplane, and it is so convenient for all sorts of things, from grating nutmeg to getting beautiful clouds of cheese to getting all the zest off of your oranges and lemons. Citrus zest has just as much flavor, if not more, than the juice, so always try and incorporate it into your recipes. I'm gonna slice some lemons now, and I want 3/4 of a cup of fresh lemon juice. Of course, if you're making this recipe, you would never use concentrated lemon juice or that stuff that comes in a bottle. It's not the same. Let's squeeze these out. I want 3/4 of a cup or 180 mils. This pie, by the way, is so light and zingy, creamy and crunchy. It's one of my favorites, and you can make it in tons of different ways. Today, I'm gonna use a French meringue on top. It's the easiest kind. That's why I'm making this video again, because I just wanted to do a streamlined version that was kind of as quick and delicious as possible. You could use a Swiss or Italian meringue. You could do any kind of crust you want. The key is really to get the filling the right consistency. It needs to set, but if it's too set, it's like rubbery jello, not delicious. Okay. 180 mils exactly. I can set this aside, and now we're gonna separate our eggs and get to work. This recipe uses 5 eggs, but we're using the yolks and the whites separately, so let's separate them. Okay. So we are making a meringue, which means you do want to be careful and not crack any of the yolks. I often like to use my clean hands to separate egg yolks because they're very soft and responsive, so they can grab the yolk if it's breaking, and it's really been a lifesaver. Set your eggs aside for just a bit later. Grab a medium pot, and now we're gonna combine all the ingredients that have to get nice and hot. Into my pot, I'm adding 1 1/4 cups or 250 grams of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup or 25 grams of cornstarch. I'm using exactly 1/4 cup of cornstarch, that's 25 grams. You'll get a wonderful silky pie that's just set up. But if you like more structure and you want it a bit firmer, add an extra tablespoon of cornstarch, or when you're measuring, scoop the cornstarch out, then level it off, because that'll pack it in a bit. Our lemon zest, 1 1/4 cups of water, 300 mils, and our 3/4 of a cup of lemon juice. My juicer lets all the little tiny seeds go through, so I will be straining that. Whisk this together just so everything's combined, especially the cornstarch. No lumps, please. Now we're gonna place this over medium heat, whisking frequently until it's thickened. it's gonna be one of those situations where nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens, it's done. There's no in between from nothing happening to it being done. So you really wanna like keep an eye on it and don't walk away. And you might notice I'm using a narrow whisk. If you have one, it's great because it can get into the corner of your pot where things tend to clump up and get too cooked. Plop that on, medium heat. By the way, if you're not using a scale like I am and you tend to pack your measuring cups in, I might move down to 3 tablespoons of cornstarch because you could pack a lot into that measuring cup and it'll give you a much firmer pie, which I feel just doesn't taste as delicious. Things like desserts taste the best when it's like creamy and just melts on your tongue, not when you're working on it. Unless it's a pastry, that's different. I almost forgot, I have these egg yolks in this beautiful little bowl, but they don't belong here. Place your egg yolks in a larger bowl and just give them a really quick whisk to break them up. So what happens is this mixture is very hot, but lacks the egg yolks, which are gonna give you extra creaminess and structure and that beautiful color that you like. The color doesn't come from the lemon juice, it comes from the egg yolks. But if you just poured it right in, it would scramble the yolks and give you a horrible, like, knobby texture. We're gonna temper the egg yolks by slowly drizzling this hot lemon mixture while we whisk vigorously. You'll see, it sounds intimidating, but it's very, very easy. I've been here a couple minutes and literally it looks exactly the same. Nothing has happened. But in a moment, it'll come together and you'll see it's like a gel almost. You just can't leave it alone. It's gonna get ruined if that happens. Okay, it's starting to change. I can tell by the waves. So quickly, it goes from being that boring old lemony liquid to this glossier, thicker liquid. See, it's starting to bubble. If you want to check, grab a spoon, and you should see it coat the back like that. So I'm gonna measure out 1 cup of the lemon mixture, and then that will go into my yolks. Okay. That's much easier. All right, whisk vigorously and pour this in a stream. Just like that, don't go too fast. So I'm warming the yolk mixture up gradually so that it doesn't curdle. Now you grab your pot again and pour the egg mixture into that while whisking. Good. That color is stunning. It's like so sunshiny and bright. Our filling's ready to go back on heat. It'll be medium high for about 2 minutes while you whisk vigorously. The test for doneness is your whisk will leave a defined trail. That's how you know it's set up properly. Whisk, whisk, whisk. This happens really quickly, and if you've ever made a traditional custard, you know the eggs stabilize it alone. There is no cornstarch. Here, because we have all of the water and all of the lemon juice for flavor and volume, we just don't want to have that much eggs in there. So the cornstarch and the eggs are working together. First you thicken the cornstarch and then you cook again with the egg mixture in. It'll be beautifully set and silky. Whisk the edge of the pot, work your way in, then work your way back out, and that way nothing will be overcooked and burnt on the bottom. Once it starts to bubble, you know you're getting close. Okay, take that off heat. Grab 4 tablespoons of butter, give it a cube, and we're gonna plop this in and just whisk until the butter has melted and disappeared. The butter does 2 things that are really important. 1, it totally changes the way you taste this. It adds so much richness and mouthfeel. And 2, it also helps to set the pie. The butter will get whisked in, tendrils of fat that'll kind of cool down and become solids, and it provides this matrix for everything to just kind of settle and be less liquidy. But mainly it's the flavor. It's incredible when you make a custard and you taste the custard, of course, because you're in the kitchen, no one's watching. It's delicious. But then you add the butter and it just changes everything and ups the flavor 10,000 times. That's why when you go to a restaurant, they start with butter and they end with butter for almost every dish. Okay, that's good. Now it's time to pour the filling into the pie crust and then we make our meringue. good, oh my gosh. Set that aside carefully. Grab your stand mixer with a whisk attachment or a big bowl and a hand mixer, and we're gonna whip these egg whites with some sugar until they're fluffy and amazing. Before your pie has a chance to cool down, add your egg whites into the mixer, along with a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This is an acid from the winemaking process, and it helps to stabilize the egg whites. If you don't have it, a 1/4 teaspoon of white vinegar or even of lemon juice. Okay, get this started on low, then move your way up to high. Once that's nice and frothy, measure out 1/2 cup or 100 grams of granulated sugar. I'm gonna slowly add the sugar in, a tablespoon at a time. Slowly. The secret to a French meringue that's glossy and marshmallowy and amazing is just adding the sugar in slowly and letting it dissolve completely in the egg whites. If you dump the sugar in, it deflates and it'll be grainy. Adding the last of my sugar in, let this mix on medium-high for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna show you, but like, for example, right now, you might think this is stiff and glossy. These don't look bad, but see this? See how it curls over? It's gonna be stiff and marshmallowy and amazing. And also, you won't feel any sugar between your fingers, or you shouldn't. About 5 minutes later, this is how you know it's ready. It all just gloms onto the beater in this one giant like mass. So here, I want to show you. Like that's how stiff it is. It's like one huge mass of meringue, barely jiggles. It is so thick and marshmallowy now, it's gonna be amazing. Now we're gonna spread our meringue on top of our pie, but here's the catch. This isn't a bake, it'll finish setting up. At the moment, it's very soft. So if you just plop it on and press really hard, you'll disturb the meringue, so be as gentle as you can. In fact, I'm gonna grab a triggered scoop. That's my trick for spreading frosting on delicate cakes. You add a scoop, 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 and then you smooth it out. I'm not gonna lie, I've fully like yielded to my Virgo feelings. So I'm gonna pipe some of this in between the little scoops, just like that. Once we reach the crust, it'll be okay. The meringue has to cover the filling completely, and that way it protects the crust when it's in the oven. But until we get there, it's a little bit dicey. Create a mountain of meringue. You don't have to use all the meringue if you don't want to. We just used 5 egg whites because we used 5 egg yolks, but if you like more filling and less fluff, then, you know, do something else with this. I have a kitchen torch at home. I actually have several, but one of the main comments I get is, John, I don't have one, what can I do? And you can bake your pie. That's what we're gonna do today. When you do that, you really have to create some big scoops in your meringue so that it doesn't all get uniformly brown. So big scoops, just like that, so like big ripples coming in, and the edges will get singed. Okay, my pie is ready to go into the oven, 20 minutes at 350. Everything will set up and this will become golden and brown in all the high places over here. In you go. Allow your pie to chill 4 hours to overnight, then give it a cut and you're ready to enjoy. That crisp butter crust with that silky, zingy lemon filling and that cloud of meringue on top. This is so delicious. It's like sunshine on a plate. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, and if you like this video, check out my pie playlist.